Welcome to Comfort Havoc number 2. I'm your host, Echo Fan Grey Wolf. This is your bonus video. It is the last video for tonight. So, I'm not a fan of cop-out endings, and I'm not a fan of actors walking away from shows. I get it as a failed actor for 30 years, which none of you know who I am unless you've been here since I started this channel. Let me put it to you nicely. Alright. This is me being real. If I ever get a show, and as long as I'm not the star of the show, then I'm going to stay on there as long as the fans want me there. If the fans decide that I need to be written off, I'm not going to fight the fans. Which is, alright, cool, they don't like me, and show's over for me. Now, if let's say it's 2 people on the show, and I'm like, it's like Supernatural. I'm on that motherfucker till it cancels. Alright? And I'm not going to be on any show with a cop-out ending unless my character's arc ends long before the show ends, which is okay. But if my character's on to the very end, I don't want a second season of The Land of the Lost where you don't know why the fuck the father left, or if you do, it hasn't been explained to me. I have been looking for the episode to find out what happened and how the show actually ends, because I don't remember, because 1970 something was a long time ago for me, and we watched it every day. But I do know that the father stepped into one of those diamond things and he never came back. I did do some research on it. There's an episode called Circle, so I'm going to be looking for that to see something about paradoxes or whatever. And apparently the father started this shit and got trapped in the paradox, and that's why the family wound up coming back through time or to another dimension or whatever. It never shows you how that one father found it and then fucked it up for every other life of him in every other dimension or whatever. But I don't like shit like that just leaves you with cliffhangers. Alright? I don't like that kind of shit. Now, I will say that if at all possible, I want to never have a show where the show doesn't have a complete and total ending. Sliders did that to me. Battlestar Galactica, the remake, did a cop-out ending where the original, when it ended, they made a mini-series where the kids of Starbuck and Apollo came and cured the Earth of all the diseases and gave them all the stuff, and then they flew off before the Cylons ever would find Earth, and they covered up their tracks, they covered their missions and all that shit. Star Trek Enterprise as a cop-out ending. Star Trek Voyager was a cop-out ending, and don't get me wrong, I loved Star Trek Enterprise. I really loved Voyager. Deep Space Nine had a decent ending. Star Trek The Next Generation went straight into movies. It had a decent ending. But it's just the principle of a show with an ending that pretty much gives the audience a big fat fuck you. Farscape, it got canceled. And then they got a good ending because they made a miniseries and Peacekeeper War, and it solved all the questions, and you found out what happens to Dargo and Aaron Soon and the man. They have a baby and they go back into space. And if I just ruined that for you, I'm sorry, but you understand as an actor your role, and if you're the co-star or the co-star, you have a part in the show, but it's not like a major part. I'm okay with that. But if I'm in a major role and the show revolves around me, for the fans specifically, I'm in it for the fans, and I want to be in it until the show is over. Now, if by some chance there's a chance where me and the producers and them start having some problems, or they don't want to pay me, okay, I'm not really so much about the pay as the story. The story has to have an ending, and if my ending is that I pass away on the show, that's fine, and I'm prepared to do that. But the show has to have an ending. It has to have an ending. Everything that I'm in has to have a fucking ending. And y'all might not agree with it, and that's fine and dandy. But as an actor and a fan of actors and acting, every show should have an ending. It doesn't have to have a happy ending, but an ending. When Sliders ended, it ruined everything for me. Because you don't know if the black guy lives or dies when he gets back. You just know he had poisoned the Chromax inside of his system. I don't want that. I want them to at least see him make it back. And if he dies, he's like leaks out the poison, something, instead of just leaving a cliffhanger. Dark Matter was canceled, so I never got to see the ending. Z Nation was canceled, so I never got to see the actual ending, or I saw the ending and didn't know it was the ending because they just never finished it or whatever. But you know, I don't want to be in a show where you're watching as a fan and then you're like fucked for the next 15 years to not know what the fuck happened to the character. And then there's you know, we're not allowed to talk about it. The policies for actors that they have to sign, some kind of agreement. I can't remember the name of it. I don't want to have that on my shoulders, and I don't want people who see me throwing tomatoes like, "Yeah, man, your show fucking ended fucking in a sucky way," you know. And like, I was a fan of Angel. Angel had a decent ending. Buffy had a decent ending. Charmed, the OG Charmed, had a decent ending. The new Charmed got fucked, so it didn't get a good ending. It just got a cop out ending. You know, I don't want endings to just cop out and just leave you with absolutely fucking nothing. You know, at least Farscape, they did come back and they made something. The TV show Lex had a decent ending. It wasn't the best ending, but it was an ending. All your questions got answered. You know, I didn't like the fact that the Bronan G dude died, but sorry, I probably just ruined that for you too. But you know, it had a fucking ending that I could work with, versus the Cro-Mags are back on my planet. You know, beep. Throw the thing back far enough that can't nobody get it, and he just jives through the portal. Now that kind of, you know, sucked. The ending of Mass Effect 3. Now, they could have a resolve, even if Shepard died or if he survived. They could actually show the aftermath, like before the credits. What led to this? What led to the female Stargazer versus the male Stargazer? They could have done something. No. And that's why I'm having a hard time with Sundown. I'm going to give you a decent ending, or I'm going to die trying. All my books have a decent ending. American Code of Reach has a decent ending. Love 13 definitely has a decent ending. But it's just the principle of, these are why I have these issues, because nothing's worse than getting invested in a show and the ending just fucking sucks or leaves it to your imagination. No, fuck that shit. Let us know what the fuck happens to the character. As my improv with Cloud Thunder. He saves Thor. Thor gets the hammer back. He gets dropped back off. He doesn't get his job back, though, because that's reality. Alright? He was an alcoholic before he became the power of Thor. Alcohol can cost you your job. It's just as simple. You know, there are a lot of things that we do to ourselves that sabotage ourselves, and we have to be aware of that. That we have to take accountability for the part that we take in fucking up our own lives. Now, on a personal note, if someone else fucks up your life and it's not your fault, then you can complain about it. But if you fuck up your life and you choose to fuck up your life by doing drugs or doing something that could ruin your fucking life, that shit's on you. And you can't blame anybody else for it. You might not like how I said that, but it's a fucking fact. I'm Echo Fan Grey Wolf. This is Kung Fu Havoc number 2. Be seeing